Hello there and welcome to All 24 News World News program coming to you live from Algiers, and up next are the top stories. President Abdelmajid Tebboune makes a historic state visit to Oman and meets with Algerian community in the Sultanate. The two countries agree on establishing joint investment fund. Algeria and Cuba reaffirmed commitment to support oppressed peoples, including Sahrawi and Palestinian causes. Also coming up in Gaza, 96 Palestinian martyrs in just 24 hours, dozens killed and wounded in Zionist bombing across the Strip. Gamal Udwan Hospital left without surgeons after the occupation arrests medical staff. And in Lebanon, dozens killed and wounded in occupation raids on residential buildings in Baalbek and Nabatea. Hezbollah shells gathering of occupation forces on border with occupied Palestinian territories. Hello again and welcome back to the details. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune is making a historic state visit to the Sultanate of Oman. He arrived at Muscat International Airport on Monday, where he was welcomed by Sultan Haytham bin Tariq at the airport's Royal Hall. This visit aims to strengthen the ties of brotherhood, cooperation, and consultation between Algeria and Oman. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune met with representatives of the Algerian community in Muscat on Monday evening during his state visit to Oman. This meeting is part of his tradition of directly addressing the concerns of the Algerians abroad. Attendees expressed their gratitude for his remarks and valued the opportunity to engage with him during his visits outside Algeria.
Even before I raised the issue, Mr. President expressed that Algeria is open to twinning. We were seeking a formal and operational framework for this twinning, and he directly instructed His Excellency the Minister to address this matter to facilitate communication between the two societies. The second point was the issue of equivalence concerning university degrees. Mr. President categorically stated that the problem of equivalence has been completely resolved and that he would recognize the degrees, God willing, without any obstacles. The third point was the call for cultural bridging and activating Algeria's cultural presence in the Sultanate of Oman. Indeed, Mr. President responded positively by suggesting the possibility of establishing an Algerian cultural center in Oman to introduce Omani society and other communities in Oman to Algerian culture.
We're pleased to note that His Excellency the President has shown a strong understanding of the current concerns, particularly regarding supply chains. This issue is critical for Algerian products entering the Sultanate of Oman, especially given the quality of these products and their acceptance by consumers. We hope, God willing, that it will take this matter into consideration. We also urge the establishment of dedicated airlines for shipping food and agricultural products, as this aligns with the strategic goals of our country.
Most of the community's concerns and problems have been approved by the President of the Republic. We thank him very much for approving the solutions to these problems. May God bless him.
I believe it's a virtue, engaging with the Algerian community and listening to their concerns. I believe that addressing these issues will bring Algerians closer to the decision-making process in Algeria by considering the views of citizens abroad who are an essential part of our nation. We aspire for Algeria to progress and develop.
To the same matter, Algeria and the Sultanate of Oman aim to establish a joint investment fund reflecting their consensus on developing collaborative vision. The two nations are connected by a series of agreements that govern their bilateral cooperation, most notably the Joint Committee formed in February 1991, which has held 8 meetings and resulted in the signing of 27 agreements. Algeria and the Sultanate of Oman aim to strengthen economic relations by enhancing cooperation in key sectors. One significant example of this partnership is the ammonia and urea production complex in Oran, developed through collaboration between Algeria's Sonatrach and Oman's Bahwan Group, valued at $3 billion. This project highlights the importance of cooperation along the Algiers-Muscat axis. Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune concluded a working and fraternal visit to the Arab Republic of Egypt on Monday. He departed from Cairo International Airport, where he was seen off the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Both visits to Egypt and the Sultanate of Oman are aimed at strengthening the bonds of brotherhood, cooperation, and consultation between Algeria and these two nations. To a different matter now, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army General Said Chengriha met with the Cuban Deputy Minister of the Revolutionary Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Joaquin Quintasola, during a working visit by the Cuban delegation. The meeting underscored the importance of coordinating efforts in enhancing cooperation between Algeria and Cuba. Chengriha highlighted the deep-rooted historical ties between the two nations based on shared values and principles, and reiterated the Algerian Army's commitment to fulfilling the strategic visions of both countries' leaders to strengthen their military partnership.
The relations between Algeria and the Republic of Cuba are deeply rooted, characterized by historical bonds of friendship. The two countries share a set of solid values and principles that have established exemplary bilateral relations based on cooperation, solidarity, support for vulnerable nations, and backing of just causes worldwide, particularly the Sahrawi and Palestinian issues.
For his part, Cuban Deputy Minister of the Revolutionary Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Joaquin Quintasola, praised General Chengriha's genuine commitment to strengthening Algeria-Cuba relations. He noted that this dedication will enhance military cooperation in line with their leaders' ambitions for fruitful collaboration. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama, condemned the attacks by the Rapid Support Forces in Sudan, calling them a blatant example of contempt for the Security Council and the international community. Speaking during a briefing on the situation in Sudan in New York on Monday, he strongly denounced the ongoing violence against civilians.
Madame la Présidente, j'ai l'honneur de prononcer.
It is difficult to find the accurate words to describe the appalling situation in Sudan and to express our sentiment of inability to provide the Sudanese people with the right response on the ground, while civilians continue to bear shocking patterns of the carnage in Sudan. We therefore strongly condemn the continued violence committed against civilians.
Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations called for a sustainable solution to the crisis in Sudan, urging all parties to adhere to the ceasefire with support from regional and international actors.
We therefore welcome the report presented by the Secretary General on the recommendations for the protection of civilians. In this regard, we wish to underline the following. First, we have to identify the basis for a durable solution. Convincing the parties to commit to a ceasefire has to be our ultimate priority. This goal, however, must allow for contribution from all regional and international actors, driven by fairness, justice, goodwill, and international law.
Since the war erupted in April 2023 between Sudan's army and the Rapid Support Forces, the security situation has become critical, with the severe food crisis pushing the country toward famine. The World Food Programme is urgently calling on both parties to grant full access to humanitarian aid. More details with Sofiane Kanturi now.
Since April 2023, Sudan has been torn apart by a brutal civil war, with the Rapid Support Forces clashing with the Sudanese army, heavily armed and backed by foreign powers. The Rapid Support Forces is accused of countless abuses against civilians. The ongoing violence has pushed Sudan to the brink, with the security situation spiraling out of control and access to humanitarian aid severely restricted, worsening the crisis. Sudan now is facing a terrible famine.
Well, for us, it's about getting food in. We can get trucks in there, and so it's important that the gate stays open, as well as other gates throughout, from South Sudanese border, the north, etc. We need as many openings as possible. It's not just about Adre.
Volunteers are doing their best, distributing food parcels in remote areas, but it's nowhere near enough for the 26 million people that the UN says are in critical need.
The goal today was to, first of all, meet the leadership, because I had not met them yet, and to reiterate to them the need for us to have complete and unfettered access, as well as the ability to get in through as many different entry points into Sudan as possible.
2 months ago, both conflicting parties agreed to secure safe routes for humanitarian aid, but the promises have gone unfulfilled.
Yes, I mean, they're actively talking about it to us. They have concerns about some gates and others. The point is they're listening, and we're trying to work together to make sure that we can be able to feed people at scale in Sudan.
The World Food Programme has sounded the alarm, warning that the severe food shortages are sweeping across Sudan, and famine has already taken hold in Darfur's Zamzam camp. Without full access for aid workers, WFP warns this crisis could escalate dramatically. Sudan's war, raging for over 18 months, has created one of the world's worst humanitarian disasters, with no end in sight.
First off, in our news file, 14 Palestinians were killed and dozens injured in Zionist occupation raids on residential buildings and neighborhoods in northern Gaza Strip. 3 were killed in Shujaiya, 3 from the same family in Beit Lahia, and 2 near the Islamic complex mosque in Sabra, while another 2 were killed near the Badr Mosque in the Zaytun neighborhood. Additionally, 4 were killed in a drone attack on the Qasasib neighborhood in Jabal al-Balad, with several injured taken to Al-Auda hospital. The Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza has called on international institutions to urgently send surgical medical teams to Kamal Adwan Hospital in the northern Gaza Strip. A statement confirmed that following the arrest and deportation of all medical staff, only 1 pediatrician remains at the hospital, leaving the injured in critical danger due to the lack of surgeons. Zionist occupation forces carried out 5 new massacres in Gaza Strip, resulting in 96 martyrs and 277 injuries or injured within 24 hours. The Palestinian Ministry of Health reported that the death toll from the ongoing Israeli aggression has risen to 43,020, with 100,000 wounded since October 7th of last year. Similarly, several Palestinians were killed and others injured in a Zionist bombing across the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian news agency reported that a missile targeted a group of Palestinians at a Qassam mosque in Beit Lahia, killing one and injuring others. A drone strike in Shuja'iyya killed 3 Palestinians and injured several. In Rafah, the civil defense recovered 3 mortars directly targeted by a quadcopter drone. Additionally, at least 4 Palestinians were killed and dozens wounded by Zionist fire in displaced camps in central and northern Gaza. A child was killed by the occupation or by an occupation drone in Maghazi camp, while 2 martyrs and several wounded were reported from Burij camp. In Nusayrat camp, a raid resulted in 1 martyr and 4 wounded, alongside drone bombings in Taba Nawiri. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry stated that the Zionist occupation is deliberately prolonging the war to obstruct international efforts for a just solution to the Palestinian cause. It warned against the occupation exploiting the international community's failure to uphold humanitarian laws to intensify genocide and forced displacement of Palestinians while accelerating the annexation of the West Bank. The ministry cautioned that the Zionist entity seeks to reshape the region based on force rather than peace. As winter approaches, Gaza's displaced people face harsh conditions without shelter or food. The season ahead looks harsh for tens of thousands struggling to survive. To help, a young Palestinian woman is transforming thermal blankets into children's clothing. Zahra Farjani reports.
In Khan Yunis, al-Mawasi refugee camp, the hum of a sewing machine breaks the silence as Nida Atiyah, a 31-year-old refugee, takes on a simple yet powerful mission, making children's clothes from thermal blankets to keep them warm through a second harsh winter in poverty.
This is our second winter approaching, and people are in extreme need, without clothes. So we thought of a way to address the fabric shortage by repurposing thermal blankets into winter clothing. We've made tracksuits for children aged 3 to 14, hoodies for boys and girls.
We have been displaced for over a year now. Last winter was tough, and now it's coming again. But we have nothing left, not even enough clothing for my sick daughter. We left with just the clothes on our backs, wearing sandals, with no time to gather anything. With support from the camp's residents, Nida launched her project Needle on Thread last September. Men and women alike chip in, creating patterns, cutting, measuring, sewing, and filling each piece of clothing. To power the sewing machine despite ongoing blackouts, they ingeniously connected it to a bicycle pedal with a belt.
At first, we sewed everything by hand, but as demand grew, we needed to step up. We found an electric machine, which we connected to a bicycle as an alternative power source to keep us going. Still, our basic tools can't keep up with the need, and we hope our project will expand.
Our only shelter is in the sea. Since August, we have been wondering how we will get through another winter here by the water. So we started thinking about this blanket project, to have something warm to wear and cover ourselves up with. As winter looms over Gaza, the refugees in Al-Mawasi brace for more hardship. Last year's heavy rains already flooded several camps, destroying shelters, and with the continued devastation from 13 months of conflict, this winter threatens to be even longer and harsher.
South Africa submitted a memorandum to the International Court of Justice accusing the Zionist entity of committing genocide. The South African presidency confirmed in a letter on its official website that the memorandum includes further evidence and details supporting its case that the events in Gaza constituted genocide.
From acts of genocide and related.
EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs Joseph Borrell called the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip the worst since World War II. At the Union for the Mediterranean Forum in Barcelona, he emphasized the need to end the tragic situation and criticized the UN and international organizations for only expressing concern without taking action to stop the aggression.
Between Israel and Palestine, because
the most important concern today is the dire situation of the people in North Gaza. The most acute humanitarian crisis since the World War II. And the way this war is being taken against civilians has grave concerns and puts too many unanswered questions. All United Nations organizations, from the International Red Cross to OCHA, to World Food Programme, to World Health Organizations, are warning about the situation there. We have to do something more than just expressing concern. We should go out to this meeting with a stronger commitment to put pressure in order to stop this dramatic situation.
More news updates on Lebanon are coming up after the break. Ten Lebanese were killed and several others injured in a Zionist raid on two towns in the Sur district. The Lebanese news agency reported that 7 were killed in a raid on a residential building in the Aram neighborhood at dawn, while civil defense efforts continue to search for missing ones. Additionally, 3 more Lebanese were martyred in a bombing in the town of Batuleh. 4 Lebanese were killed and at least 10 injured in a Zionist bombing of Baalbek in eastern Lebanon. The Lebanese news agency reported that the occupation aircraft targeted a residential neighborhood in Brital, resulting in an initial toll of 2 mortars and 10 wounded, some in critical condition. The attack also caused significant damage to nearby buildings and vehicles. Additionally, 2 more were killed when a Zionist drone struck a motorcycle in the town of Tarya. 2 people were killed and 6 others, including children, were injured in a Zionist bombing in the Baalbek and Nabatiya, southern Lebanon. Airstrike in Nabatiya's Old Saraya neighborhood resulted in 1 death and 3 injuries, while a strike in Dar es-Sawana killed a house owner and injured 3 children. Rescue operations are still underway to remove the rubble. Lebanese Hezbollah announced on Monday that it targeted a gathering of occupation forces at the border with the occupied Palestinian territories. In a statement on Telegram, Hezbollah reported that its forces shelled Zionist occupation forces at the Fatima Gate, achieving direct hits. Intense battles continue as Hezbollah engages with occupation forces attempting to cross the Lebanese border into the south. Following a strike that disabled the Jussia border crossing, the primary link between Syria and Lebanon, Lebanese people are now crossing via a makeshift bridge. only 3 crossing points remain operational along the 375-kilometer border. Yasin Arukti has the full story.
Fleeing Lebanon on foot to Syria, Lebanese families are now forced to cross a narrow makeshift bridge in Syria's Qusayr region in Homs province. Just 2 days earlier, a Zionist strike had destroyed the official border crossing between Syria and Lebanon. Hossoun Mubarak, along with his 3 children, made a difficult journey from Baalbek, Lebanon, over the improvised bridge on Sunday.
The situation is tragic. There are strikes and attacks every day. We managed to survive the chaos and make it here. Thank God.
Recent strikes in Qusayr also destroyed a bridge over the Orontes River, disrupting vital transport between agricultural areas.
The bridge is completely destroyed. Rebuilding it will be a long and costly process. Right now, traffic across the Orontes is cut off, making life nearly impossible for farmers, villagers, and locals who depend on moving between the river banks. We're doing our best to find alternatives, but it's a tough situation.
According to Akul, rebuilding the bridge could cost billions of Syrian pounds, and its destruction has cut off key agricultural zones and isolated communities that rely on cross-border trade.
We can't yet estimate the exact costs. The bridge needs a full inspection to check how badly the cement was damaged. But at a minimum, we're looking at 35 billion Syrian pounds, about $2.5 million, assuming the foundations are still stable, that is. We'll need special equipment to inspect it, and in the coming days, we'll get a clearer picture of the full damage.
Humanitarian officials warn that closing these crossings has intensified an already dire crisis by blocking critical supply routes. The Zionist forces claim Hezbollah has been using the crossings to move weapons and military gear between Syria and Lebanon.
Moving on to a different matter now, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baqai stated that Tehran has evidence linking to the Zionist occupation to the attack on its forces near the Pakistani border. During a press conference on Monday, Baqai indicated that numerous signs suggest the attackers, who killed 10 Iranian security personnel on October 26th, are connected to the Zionist occupation. The Iraqi Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced on Monday that Baghdad submitted a formal protest to the UN Secretary General and the Security Council, accusing the Zionist occupation of violating Iraqi airspace in its attack on Iran. The ministry reaffirmed its commitment to Iraq's sovereignty and stated it would not allow its territory to be used for attacks on other nations, especially neighboring ones. In Tunisia, the Tunisian Coast Guard has recovered 16 migrant bodies off the coast of Ma'louch, Slata and Shabba amid ongoing tragedies in the Mediterranean. A National Guard official reported that the bodies were found over the weekend, but their identities remain unknown due to their decomposition. Last month, 15 Tunisians, including 3 infants, died and 10 others went missing after their boat capsized near Jerba. Additionally, 3 bodies of migrants from sub-Saharan countries were recovered in the same area last month. Botswana's President Masisi affirmed his country's strong support for the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination and independence. In a letter responding to a congratulatory message from Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali on Botswana's National Day, Masisi expressed his commitment to enhancing relations between the Sahrawi and Botswana peoples. Andriy Yermak, head of the Ukrainian presidential office, announced that presidential elections will take place immediately after the war ends. In an interview with Corriere della Sera, he emphasized President Volodymyr Zelensky's commitment to ensuring that all soldiers and refugees can vote, while Constitution sets the next presidential elections, for March 31, 2024. Current law prohibits elections during martial law.
Immediately after the war ends, President Zelensky is very clear on this matter. He wants all soldiers to be able to vote, as well as the refugees who are currently abroad. But today, resources must go to the war.
Moving on to the United States now, at a rally in New York City, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump energized his MAGA supporters, promising to intensify his crackdown on migration. He also targeted his Democratic opponent Kamala Harris, labeling her unintelligent and unfit for the presidency, attributing many of the country's problems to her.
Next Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've done a terrible job, that crooked Joe Biden has done a terrible job. You've destroyed our country. We're not going to take it anymore. Kamala, you're fired. Get out, get out. You're fired.
On the other hand, Vice President Kamala Harris rallied voters in Philadelphia on Sunday as the race against former President Donald Trump tightens with just 9 days until the election day. In her speech from downtown Philadelphia, Harris focused on her campaign message, encouraging voters in the battleground state of Pennsylvania to cast their ballots.
It's good to be back. I had to Philly, we have 9 days to get this done. And for the next 9 days, no one can sit on the sidelines. There is too much on the line, and we must not wake up the day after the election and have any regrets about what we could have done in these next 9 days. The election is here, and the choice, Philly, is truly in your hands. The path to victory runs right through all the leaders who are here.
That wraps up our news program for tonight, dear viewers. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.